Hi, everybody. I am back for one more review. I actually have enough time here to get one more squeezed in. And this is going to be the final Transformers film next to the new one, Rise of the Beast, which I'll no doubt try to see soon. And this is Bumblebee. Bumblebee is a 2018 action sci-fi hybrid, and it basically is a prequel to all the Michael Bay Transformers movies. And it almost acts like a fresh reboot to the franchise, in a way. Tries to act like a reboot and a prequel at the same time. So basically, the plot of Bumblebee is... it obviously takes place on Cybertron. The Autobots are losing the war, and Optimus Prime has Bumblebee basically sent to Earth to establish a communication there and to wait for Optimus Prime's arrival. But unfortunately, the Decepticons learn of Bumblebee's arrival on Earth, and they try to intercept and try to wipe him out, which they almost do, and also destroying Bumblebee's vocal cord in the process. So that kind of explains why he's unable to speak. And of course, the time period he lands on Earth is in the year 1987, which happens to be my birth year. That's awesome. Over in California. And he ends up taking the form of a yellow beetle, which ends up in the possession of a young girl named Charlie Watson, my last name, surprisingly, played in the film by actress Haley Steinfeld, who actually does give a fantastic performance in the movie. And all the meanwhile, he's being hunted down by a military soldier, played by wrestler-turned-actor John Cena. John Cena, probably best known as the Peacemaker from Suicide Squad, and also appeared in at least 2 of the Fast and the Furious movies. So basically, Charlie is a young girl living at home with her family, and of course is completely distraught over the loss of her father, which I know exactly how she's going through because 2 years ago I lost my dad myself, so I definitely feel her pain. And she comes across the yellow beetle, which she quickly discovers is Bumblebee. But of course, he's not referred to as Bumblebee. He's referred to as another name, B127, one of those names. So sorry if it's not the correct exact number, but she calls him Bumblebee because, well, he's got the same colors as a bumblebee, yellow and black. And the two quickly bond and, get to know each other very well, and she tries to hide him in the house, from her family to try to keep him as a secret. Almost acts like a parallel to E.T., the extraterrestrial, in a way. She's trying to hide him from the world, from her family and from the government, who will do whatever it takes to hunt him down. And after 2 Decepticons ultimately show up and try to side with the humans to bring down Bumblebee, where of course, Decepticon, deception, that's what they use that as the power to fool the humans, essentially. So it's basically almost like a battle for the survival of Earth in a way, because, if the Decepticons make contact with Megatron and the rest of them, then yes, Earth will, basically fall. And realizing that the humans may be going after the wrong guy. You know what I mean? Like I said, that's the plot of Bumblebee. It's pretty simple, actually. Yeah, simple. As in, nowhere near as convoluting as any of the previous Transformers movies. Which is one of the things I really like about this movie. The story is less convoluting. It's more straightforward. It doesn't focus much on the action and the visuals as much as the previous films did. But the visuals and the action tell a good story. I really do love the interaction between Charlie and Bumblebee. I really do. I think it's great. And of course, the movie does focus on her teenage woes, dealing with the loss of her father and trying to, mix in with the other kids. Like I said, it's a 1980s movie. And as a 1980s film, it does offer an amazing soundtrack. There's even a song from the animated Transformers movie in the soundtrack. And I think it's You Got the Touch. I forget who sang it, but still, as soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh man, that's from the animated movie. That's awesome. So yeah, this movie has a lot, and it's also shorter than, in fact, it's the first Transformers movie, the live action Transformers film, to have a runtime less than 2 hours, 113 minutes. And even at 113, it still runs at a pretty smooth and steady pace, but one of the things I really love the most about this movie is that, yes, it's shorter than any of the previous films, and also it has a lot packed into it. The action and the visuals, once again, are great when they need to be on the screen, but the one thing I love the most about the movie is the story and the acting, which is what the previous Transformers films were severely lacking. And I'm actually glad they put more focus on that instead of the other way around. But nonetheless, though, the action and the visuals still take center stage. But this wraps everything up perfectly, unlike the previous ones. And also giving it to director Travis Knight, making his live-action directorial debut. Travis Knight is probably best known for doing the animated film Kubo and the Two Strings, which is, I think, the only other film he was involved with prior to Bumblebee. Bumblebee was a moderate success at the worldwide box office, grossing over almost $470 million. Unfortunately, yes, it is the lowest grossing Transformers movie, unfortunately, live-action Transformers. But with its smaller budget, since the budget was probably around somewhere like 100 to 150 million, that's not too bad. But the one thing this movie has amongst all the others is this is actually the first live-action Transformers film, and actually the first Transformers movie to get strong critical praise. Critics loved Bumblebee. It currently has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, essentially making it the highest-ranked Transformers movie on that site. And like I said, critics loved it. They thought it was a huge comeback for the other to the other movies in the series. Surprisingly enough, it did pick up a Razzie nomination, but for a Razzie Redeemer Award, since this was the first Transformers movie to be a critical success and not a failure like the previous ones were. Well, maybe except for the first movie, the first Transformers, which actually got fairly decent reviews compared to the sequels. But yeah, Bumblebee is fantastic. I highly recommend this movie, and I would say out of all the Transformers films that got made, this one might be my personal favorite. Because it has the perfect mix, the perfect chemistry. You got good acting, a strong lead role by Haley Steinfeld. John Cena does a good job in his role, but the interactions between her and Bumblebee are amazing. I mean, like I said, it's on an E.T. scale level. I mean, he's an outsider from another world, like E.T. She's, she's kind of an outsider herself, and, she gets somebody else in, a close friend of hers, Mimo, some kid that she ends up in a relationship with, and he grows to admire and like Bumblebee himself. And the government, basically, she's trying to hide him from the world because, he's basically an outsider. He's on his own. So yeah, this movie has many parallels to E.T. the Extraterrestrial. But I love the 80s setting, and of course with the 80s setting comes an amazing soundtrack, which I absolutely love. I do love these kinds of movies where they set them in the 80s and you get an amazing soundtrack. I really do. I really enjoy that. So overall, yeah, Bumblebee did pick up a couple of Saturn nominations. Haley Steinfeld got nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and the movie was nominated for Best Science Fiction Film of the Year. So, again, that's pretty awesome. No Oscar nominations. Oh well. But overall, Bumblebee is great. Fun movie. Definitely recommended. I would say out of all the Transformers movies, this one is definitely recommended. Alright, enough about that. Let's talk about the Blu-ray. Paramount once again released it on Blu-ray, and of course, sorry, Butterfingers. Inside here are two discs. There's the Blu-ray, and you got the DVD copy. Thankfully, the bonus features accompany the movie itself, so there's no need for a second disc. The video quality on the disc is actually not bad. It looks pretty good. It's presented in 1:8:5:1, essentially making it the first theatrical Transformers movie to be released in 1:8:5:1. But then again, I feel like The Last Knight did that too, but only in certain parts of the movie. As I said, the aspect ratio is very convoluting for The Last Knight. It's all over the place, like the movie itself. But thankfully, Bumblebee stays in the same correct aspect ratio throughout the whole movie. 1:8:5:1, and the image on the disc is great. It definitely gives you a feel of what it's like to live in the 1980s, and at the same time, it has the same feel as the live-action Michael Bay Transformers. I keep saying Michael Bay Transformers because even though Michael Bay was involved with Bumblebee, which he was, yeah, which he was involved, and as was Steven Spielberg, who executive produced all the other Transformers movies. So either way, yeah, the video quality, like I said, is great. Detail galore. I would say out of 5 stars, probably a 4.5 out of 5. Overall, yeah, I don't think it's as strong as any of the other movies, but nonetheless, though, it's still a pretty solid release. It's still a pretty solid transfer. As for the audio, it's presented once again in Dolby Atmos. There's also, well, it looks like there's only the only English track is the Dolby Atmos track. Well, there's also the English audio descriptive track, but there's also others like French, Spanish, Portuguese. And the audio, again, is just as pulse-pounding as any of the other Transformers movies. So, again, 5 out of 5 for the audio. Give it higher because I could give it higher because, you know, that's how good it sounds. The bonus features, well, there's not really a lot on here. There's what we get is, roughly an hour of additional material behind the scenes on the making of the film. There's 14 deleted extended scenes plus outtakes. A brand new animated motion comic, Bumblebee's Next Adventure. It's basically an animated segment that kind of focuses on Bumblebee's additional journeys throughout his years on Earth. Eventually, no doubt, leading up to his encounter with Sam Witwicky in the first Transformers. So overall, not a bad supplemental package. I would say out of 5 stars, I'd say probably a 3 out of 5. So all in all, this is actually a pretty well-rounded out Blu-ray release of the film. The video and audio are both spectacular. Extras are actually not too bad. Again, no commentary, but still that's not too bad at all. Not a bad selection of material. So all in all, this is actually a pretty good release, aside from the 4K version, if that's your cup of tea, if that's what your desire is to see it in 4K. But again, I'm perfectly happy with the Blu-ray, so overall, since I have finally decided to talk about all the Transformers movies finally, for one last thing, I'm probably going to try to rate them now. What I think is the best Transformers of all the ones so far. Since I haven't seen Rise of the Beast yet, which that doesn't count, I'm going to go ahead and rate how I would rate the Transformers movies. So at the top of the pile, I would definitely have to put Bumblebee at the top. My personal favorite. The second best ranked one, in my opinion, would be the animated movie, because it has all the... it literally has everything packed into an 85-minute feature. So I would say definitely the animated movie would be next. The next one I would say would be the first live-action Transformers, the first one. After that, I would probably put Age of Extinction, because I actually do have a bit of a soft spot for Age of Extinction. I mean, I like Mark Wahlberg. I think he's a better leading man than Shia LaBeouf. And although it's a long movie at 165 minutes, I do have a bit of a soft spot for it. Below that would be Dark of the Moon. Now, don't get me wrong. Even though I'm ranking these movies as, like, you know, it doesn't mean I hate them. I mean, I'm still a fairly decent fan of the franchise, but Dark of the Moon I thought was pretty good, so yeah. Below that one I would probably put Revenge of the Fallen below that one. But again, it doesn't mean I hate it more than the others, but I mean, there are some things about Revenge of the Fallen I liked over the first movie, but still I would have to put it below Dark of the Moon. And at the bottom, I would put The Last Night. Like I said, I didn't hate The Last Night. I did enjoy it, but there are some things about it that I wish they could have gotten rid of. I mean, but still, that's how I would rank the Transformers movies. So yeah, Bumblebee at the top, then 2, the animated movie, then 3, Transformers, then 4 would be Age of Extinction, 5 would be Dark of the Moon, then Revenge of the Fallen, and then finally, The Last Night. But overall, these are fun and entertaining films. I mean, that's the one thing I got to say about Transformers. Whether you love or hate the Michael Bay movies, that's up to you, but I will say when it comes to Bumblebee, definitely recommended. This is one I would definitely check out. highly recommend that you see this one. So, this concludes the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will go to see Rise of the Beast sometime soon, because I've been hearing some good talk about that one, and Rise of the Beast is going to be the, it's the actual sequel to Bumblebee, so I'm actually up to date and ready. But until then, I'm going to probably get ready for, since this coming Friday is when The Flash debuts, so no doubt I'm going to do a sort of a small marathon to get ready for that one, so I hope you enjoyed this presentation and the fact that I managed to get through all the Transformers movies up to this point. So if any of you saw Rise of the Beast, I hope it's great. I hope it's a lot of fun like all the other Transformers movies. And if you like this content, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to my channel, Unknown Lionheart. So until then, everybody take care, have a great time, and be safe.